Welcome to the Bitcoin Sage Show. I'm your host Patrick, and it is January 2nd, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope everyone's having a fantastic new year. Let's get started today with some Bitcoin news and cryptocurrency news in general. We'll skip the charts. We'll get to that at the end. Start off with some interesting news here. So how blockchain can lead to better AI products. I think this is actually a great article, and I think it leads into a lot of potential innovation. I think blockchain is the ultimate solution for artificial intelligence and AI, and being able to scan through blockchains and being able to see and explain what's happening. I think it's very interesting. I've been scanning through blockchains myself for different smaller coins and also POSs in order to understand where money is going. And I think there's some huge potential for using AI to be able to see how money is being moved around on a blockchain to better understand the players and the addresses involved in that coin itself. So I think there's lots of exciting stuff coming there. AMD came out with a report saying that their exposure to cryptocurrency is low, but the potential for revenue is extremely high. Yeah, no duh. People are still building their mining rigs, and GPU mining is going to continue to explode in 2018. So interesting details here. I did not watch this video, but I always want to look and see what's going on here, especially with ShapeShift CEO Erik Voorhees. So he tries to make sense of crypto assets, and it's an interesting video on YouTube. I'll include the link at the bottom of the video here in the comments or description. And then South Korean exchanges revise policies to comply with crypto regulation. So the FUD that happened the other day, when they said there was all these problems and they were going to ban it or close down exchanges, and I think Bitcoin fell by about $1,500. Has been trying hard to make that back up since then. So it looks like, as usual, information you get the day of is not the same. So we have our own crypto fog of war. Criminal Underworld is dropping Bitcoin for another currency. And I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast as well, that, you know, it's obvious as soon as the big boys and more legitimate regulators and players start entering into Bitcoin as investments, as well as the transaction fees and public visibility into Bitcoin, is going to make, you know, most people in the criminal underworld leave Bitcoin and go to their own currency and develop their own currency. And I think you can see that there's lots of different currencies out that are designed just for that. One of the ones they list here is Monero as one of the ones that people are now getting into for that reason. And there's lots of programs and systems set up to, I guess, spin money around and change wallets so people don't know where it's going or coming from. But the easiest is just to run your own currency and try to exit out of that currency with, you know, money handlers that they have in places already. So it'll be more interesting once those chains are available for public view. You know, it'll be even harder for policing organizations to find and see and track where money is going. So I think for a period of time, Bitcoin provided a lot of insight and visibility into where some funds were being moved around. So it'll be interesting what happens now that that visibility is gone. Next, Bitcoin adoption by businesses in 2017. Interesting little graphic here. It just says, basically in January, we're at 8,207 businesses. And by the end of the year, we're at 11,291 businesses. So I don't know, what does that look like? Almost 50% increase. So it's amazing to me that with all the publicity, I'd like to see what this number is, but the growth of businesses accepting Bitcoin has increased, but nowhere near proportionally to the increase of the asset itself, which also kind of bodes towards the angle that it's more of a speculative market behind Bitcoin. So finding the value of Bitcoin, a new model, places it at 29,000. I haven't read this in too much details, but it's interesting to see where people are starting to try to land on what the next price might be. I use that more to just see what the psychology is behind what people's thoughts are on what price action should be. Record-breaking year for 2017 brought Bitcoin, altcoins, drastically increased mainstream acceptance. totally agree with that. I've seen more and more people from the traditional space starting to talk about charting cryptocurrencies. People I never thought in a million years would be talking about them, now talking about them daily. But the fun thing is they're applying a lot of the traditional mentality to it. So it'll be nice to see when cryptocurrencies don't react the way they've expected. And I think if we see a bounce in Bitcoin and it flying further up, I think we'll at least be able to burn some of the folks like this gentleman here on CNBC who was just talking about how everyone's going to be pretty much burned on the spectacular crash that's coming. I'll just play this for a second just because this is hilarious stuff.
It could double or triple from here, or it could fall to zero. But the point is, it's not real money, because real money for transactions has to be stable. No one could run a business, fund their working capital, let's say, on a Bitcoin account. It's not a real asset class. It's basically a class of really stupid speculators who have convinced themselves that trees grow to the sky.
Yep, really stupid speculators have convinced themselves that trees grow in the skies. And this to me is like fantastic to hear from a guy from, Reagan era, President Reagan's former director of office management. Who the fuck cares what he has to say? But it's that idea that people are applying this traditional mentality to Bitcoin and expecting this to act like a regular pump and dump that has no value. So I start some sort of a company that has no value, buy a shell, promote it, it all crashes and burns. This is what they really believe Bitcoin is. And they really, really believe that anybody who believes in this concept is obviously flawed and doesn't understand economics or finance at all. And I think this is exactly the gap between, finance companies, banks, institutions in general, and where their thinking is and how far they are from the reality of the people who are in the cryptocurrency industry. And I'm amazed at how global the cryptocurrency industry really is. And it amazes me the people I meet from all over the world who are both learning and advancing their financial knowledge way further than, any of the stuff I've ever seen come out of institutions, banks, regulators, or governments have ever done to help people understand their finances. So I think this is interesting because it really does show that monster gap. An interesting article here from the New York Post: beware of the media inflating the Bitcoin bubble. So just talking to the fact that media is actually causing this bubble more than anything, and that they need to take responsibility for that as well. And last thing I wanted to talk to was the Verge cryptocurrency reportedly blackmailed by John McAfee. This is interesting, and it's important that people see what actually happens behind the scenes on a lot of these shit coins in the cryptocurrency space. And this is XVG Verge. And basically it talks about how McAfee feels that he was responsible for the $2 billion increase in market cap of Verge, and feels that he's owed and wants to be paid. And now that he's being heavily compensated by other ICOs and making millions of dollars from those, he is even more confident that he's owed because he's helped Verge so dramatically. And basically, said, I want 2,500 Ethereum to call it even. So this is what's happening back there. So be really careful when you're reading posts about people promoting a currency or something, and you haven't done your due diligence to understand it, and realize that behind the scenes, this is exactly what's happening. And these are the kinds of images that people have of the bulk of cryptocurrency. So make sure you're focusing on legitimate coins and avoiding this type of crap, and being very careful, because this stuff will burn a lot of people and has the potential to, drop even faster than it's increased. So let's get to the real stuff. Let's go to the top 10. Bitcoin, Ripple still in number 2, blowing my mind. Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, Litecoin, IOTA, Neem, Stellar. Watch out for that. I've been investing in this one also for a long time, but I'm still amazed that it's moving up. Dash, Monero, good friend Neo coming up. Let's get started with some charts. So this is really exciting. Bitcoin's finally pushing up against resistance here. Seems to have gotten a little bit of legs after that, South Korean FUD that was happening and people panicking about that. It seems like we're close to really dropping at this point, and we bounced off of this resistance line at 12,800. We're just getting to breaking resistance, but we still have to do some real work to get back up to 16,500. So the reality is we're not out of the woods yet. It's very positive at this point because at least we're not falling apart on the downside. We're coming up to that resistance line, so we should see something, but it's got to be very predominant to the upside. Like, we can't see a light and gentle up and down sideways movement. At this point, we really need to kind of recover in order to kind of hopefully pull ourselves back up. But at this point, we got to watch carefully, see what happens, see how things play out today. I'm going to jump to, I can't believe I have to go to Ripple next. And Ripple's doing a great job. It's coming right back up. Again, a lot of interest, a lot of purchasing power in Ripple. Don't fight the trend. I've been writing so much stuff on different websites and responding to people about questions on Ripple. And, I tell people all the time, it's not a real cryptocurrency. You're buying something that's based on fees, not a currency per se, and it's definitely not decentralized. That doesn't mean you can't make millions of dollars off of it, and there won't be millionaires made because of these types of coins, similar to like Verge, like we were talking about. But look at the trend, set yourself up. At this point, I would be more positive at 17,000. So I'm not interested in Ripple until that point myself, only because I think that's a real resistance line. This is extremely positive that we're starting to work our way back up. Once we get over this range here, 17,000, let's say 88, I'll be much more bullish, knowing that we're probably going to move our way past and reach back up to some of these recent highs and blow past them again as we see a new wave of purchasing on Ripple. So very positive from that perspective. Keep an eye on Ripple. Let's jump to Ethereum. And we just had a fantastic day with Ethereum. Just want to hope that everyone who is an investor in Ethereum enjoyed the nice bounce that we saw coming on all of our charts. So we've been long Ethereum for a bit here, but as we talked about, we're working off this support trend very nicely. We saw a nice, was it 15%, 20% bounce into Ethereum. Got a lot of people's attention. A lot of people were loading up in this range anyways, and you could see it on Twitter as more and more people were jumping on board and messaging out that they were on board. I think a lot of folks were waiting for a breakout over this level, I think 0.537-ish. So very positive. It actually shot up quite a bit, which is crazy. It went up to, I guess this fired up all the way to 0.074, which just shows you how much volume came in to buy. So that was a sizable position for the long term. So great news on Ethereum. Nice call on Ethereum. Let's see how that carries out. Let's see how that holds up as well. Any of these big pops, always have to watch what the downtrend or the reversal is going to be. Next, let's go to, I'm just going to go in order of what I have here. Let's go to Bitcoin Cash, and it fired off and broke through the resistance line that we were waiting for. So I was a little more aggressive with a beginning position here, only because I kind of know that there's always a pump and dump coming out of something here. So, and it looked very similar to the other setup, but I'm also watching this and have a very tight stop loss. Again, anything that you see in my videos, anything that I comment on is simply telling you what I am doing and is not advice for what you should be doing in investment, and not investment advice. It's just telling you guys what I'm thinking and what I am doing about some of my trades, just giving you an insight to my thought patterns and sharing some of the tools that I'm using and the thoughts that I'm seeing out there. And, looking for your input, looking for additional insight from folks to see what we have. So Bitcoin Cash looks good as we're breaking out through this little bit of resistance. Hopefully we'll see a continuation of this pattern. Like I said, my stop loss is very tight here, and this rejection down from the spike up isn't always that positive, but at least we're headed in the right direction. Now let's jump to Dash. Dash also broke out as expected or as hoped and is continuing upward, bounced off of this level here, which let me see back, looks like a Fibonacci level at 78.6%. Very positive, at least it's breaking out, and let's see if Dash follows through. I'm going to jump right next to is IOTA as well, continuing an upside move, bouncing off of resistance levels nicely and creating some support off of this resistance level. So IOTA is acting really well, consolidating. Once it breaks through 32,000, we should see quite a nice upward trend from that as well. So that seems to be recovering, which is impressive, because I thought for a period of time there it was very negative, the news on Twitter in general. The Litecoin consolidating, continuation of that consolidation, but some positive moves upward. So looks like all the altcoins are bouncing, or at least have been starting to bounce, and Litecoin has joined the party. So let's watch and see if it breaks out above these resistance levels. I think we're watching it at 0.0198. Once it breaks out past that, I'll be more bullish and be looking at a position. NEO exploded to the upside as expected. Fantastic day for NEO and Ethereum yesterday for us. Just amazing results. And the fact that we were able to pierce through this line here at 655,000 was very positive, that we didn't bounce off of that and reject it. We went through quite nicely. So everything's going great on NEO. Let's watch this one. I think it's going to get a lot of attention out there. And keep your stop limits tight. Next is Monero. It's bouncing off of resistance and continuing in an upward trend. Another one that I'm watching carefully, but not overly bullish on this one yet. It's consolidating and doing the work it needs to do. So definitely not out of this position. Let's see, what are we left with? Another good friend, Neem. Again, from the breakout trend, and when we kind of went long, where we've already doubled, and it's continuing on this upward trend. So Neem has a lot of positivity left there. Still bullish on Neem. Very nice. Let's see. I think that's it. Well, let's see what Bitcoin does today. Let's see if we can get the rest of the work that we're looking for here, and a strong move to the upside. Like, we really need to make something aggressive to break ourselves out of this resistance and this downward trend that we've been in, and make a dramatic move to the upside. If not, if we see that rejection, then I think we'll probably see a bigger move on all the altcoins that have been moving up dramatically over the last few days as well. And we'll also see if there is a strong upside move to Bitcoin today, what the effect is going to be on things like Ethereum and the other coins that have been moving up over the last day or so. So have yourselves a great day, and let's trade for profit.